And it's observed by mind. And mind recognizes that what it's seeing is the movement of itself. And so, let's say, if it looks like a tree, or it looks like a butterfly, mind says, I am that. I am that. What that is, I'm going to put it this way, I have been being. So what it has extended, it has given to itself, and it keeps and provides it with identity, an experience of, again, these are poor words, an experience of selfhood. God knows himself, and God knowing himself is creation, the movement of creation. Now, the ego doesn't have any other elements to work with than the real ones that I've just described. So the ego looks at the same things that God, mind, looks at and recognizes itself in. And the ego says, I'm not going to let that define me. I'm going to define it. And the first premise is, it's not me. The second premise is that that thing that's not me is a butterfly, or is a this or a that. But the definition is being applied to an already existent, real presence. And the ego is not letting that presence tell it what it is. And the ego is not letting the gift from that thing to register with it as confirmation of it. The ego applies definitions to things. God lets the things that have arisen out of the movement of the premise I am reflect back to him with a capital H what he is. That's why creation is not a matter of cause and effect. The cause of creation is the conscious premise, I am. The conscious experience of existing, okay? That constitutes a movement. That can be recognized. And God, mind, recognizes it, and it, as I said, causes God to know himself. The cause, the fundamental premise, is the movement that is the event, not the effect. The event that is recognizable to mind. So God is not creating secondary things called creations. Mind is creating the conscious experience of self-awareness. Creation is the movement of mind recognizing itself in the movement. So the cause of creation is what is being observed and called creation. Now I'm putting this into words because you'll have the opportunity to listen to it again. Creation is not the effect of God, like a potter is the effect of the pottery is the effect of the potter and is different from the potter. Mind moves and experiences the movement and recognizes itself in it. And what it's recognizing is itself. So the cause is the event being observed. Creation is the movement of mind observed by the mind that moved. That's the singularity of it. A cat walks in front of a mirror and sees something move out of the corner of its eye and looks and sees another cat, and with no experience with mirrors, it jumps because it thinks there's another cat there. You, having experience with mirrors, look in the mirror and recognize that this is not another person, it's you. And if there's something out of alignment in the image, you make the adjustment in you. Do you see what I'm saying? You are the event that you're observing that seems to be out there. And if you want correction in the image, you make it in that of which the image is an image, meaning you standing in front of the mirror. The ego busies itself with trying to change images, not recognizing itself in it, because its premise is, I am not that. So what's the upshot of this, the practical upshot? The practical upshot of it is that every waking moment of your life, you are seeing the infinitude of you. But like the cat who doesn't make the connection, you think it's different from you. You think it's operating on its own. And because you cannot identify with it, you are wary of it. And because you do not recognize that it's you, you behave in an inconsistent way with everything and bump up against it and hurt yourself against it. But you say, I am in a hostile environment. And so you protect yourself and you become defensive. The experience of the movement of creation by mind, with a capital M, meaning God, is the only experience you have available to you. And when I say you're seeing yourself, I'm speaking about the Christ that you are, the real one that's right here, while you're playing with your own twisted perception of who you are. And so I'm not saying that each of you individually, as separate entities, are seeing yourself out there. Your ego is seeing what the Christ is being infinitely. while it, the ego, seeing it as that which is not itself, defends itself against everything and tries to manipulate everything so that it will feel safe while still being separate from it, and creates a hell of an experience of heaven. Now you have the opportunity to understand a little bit better why we're talking about turning toward the altar, why we're talking about going to that place of excellence in you, where your privateness and autonomy are meaningless. Because there is where the Holy Spirit awaits you. Your right mind awaits you. And your opportunity to experience reality on its terms. The new culture, as it were, that we've been talking about. The new measurements, the new values, the new grasping of how things work and what their function is. But all it's going to be is you looking at everything from a new paradigm, if I may put it that way. And what that really means is you looking through your Christ mind. We could say that reality is going on simultaneously with your dream, but that still suggests that there are two states and two different things, when the fact is you are experiencing reality clearly or unclearly. And when you are experiencing it unclearly, it's because you have identified yourself unclearly by saying, I am not that, I am not that, that is different from me, and this is the meaning I'm giving it. Whereas the Christ of you looks at everything and immediately recognizes itself in it, lets it in so it can register, lets everything in so it can register as the love that's being extended, which elicits the conscious experience that it's the same love that you are, that you, the Christ, are, and that you are observing the love that you are in expression, in movement, as everything that you're seeing. And why are you experiencing it this way? Because it's the only way to truly experience anything, because that's the way being is. That's what God is. That's the only experience you truly have available to you to have. The only thing that makes what I'm saying seem deep or ununderstandable is because it is so simple. And the ego has made complexity out of singular simplicity. I'm going to start again. Your creations are the logical outcome of His premises. His thinking has established them for you. They are therefore there, exactly where they belong. They belong in your mind as part of your identification with His. But your state of mind and your recognition of what is in your mind depends, at any given moment, on what you believe about your mind. Whatever these beliefs may be, they are the premises which will determine what you accept into your mind. Well, obviously, if the premise of the ego is, I am not that, that is not me, that premise blocks letting that, as what it really is, into your conscious awareness. Continuing, it is surely clear that you can both accept into your mind what is not really there and deny what is. Neither of these possibilities requires further elaboration here, but both are clearly indefensible, even if you elect to defend them. Yet, the function which God Himself gave your minds through His you may deny, but you cannot prevent. It's very important to understand this. You each may have, in your attempt to be autonomous, independent, and self-sufficient, denied God, which can be called an attack on God, but you haven't succeeded. You can't do it. It won't work, and so you have not done it. And therefore you are not guilty, you have not sinned, and therefore you do not have a period of incarceration in limitation that you must fulfill before you deserve once again to have your birthright available to you. Is that clear? Even if other things I have said today are not. Again, yet the function which God Himself gave your minds through His you may deny, but you cannot prevent. It is the logical outcome of what you are. Not what you believe you are, not what you think you are, but what you are. The ability to see a logical outcome depends on the willingness to see it, but its truth has nothing to do with your willingness at all. Truth is God's will. Share His will, and you share what He knows. And I'm going to add, and you make it your own. Deny His will as yours, and you are denying His kingdom and yours. The Holy Spirit will direct you only so as to avoid pain. The undoing of pain must obviously avoid pain. Surely no one would object to this goal if he recognized it. The problem is not whether what the Holy Spirit says is true, but whether you want to listen to what He says. Every time you say, I'm getting older, you're saying, I'm not the Son of God. You're saying, I'm not the daughter of God. Every time you say, I'm angry, every time you feel pissed off at something or someone, you are saying, I am not the son or daughter of God. Conversely, because you don't think you're the son or daughter of God, you feel justified to be angry and pissed off and retaliatory. And in your lifetime, very few people have been telling you that you are the son or daughter of God. So you are positive that you're just a human being. And you don't know your birthright. You don't know what you really are. And so you feel justified to continue what seems to be an endless pattern of hate, self-defense, war, attack, the right to be frustrated. And then you have your good moments where things seem pretty good, and you find in you a capacity to be something other than those things I've just listed. You find a capacity to be thoughtful, to want to do things, to want to be caring, to extend love. Sometimes you feel safe enough to let those feelings register in your mind, and you do express kindness. What you don't realize is that because you don't know who you are and you feel justified in all of the negatives, and you feel a necessity to express the negatives for the sake of your safety, you end up committing yourself to expressing these things, and you don't realize that you're doing nothing, that nothing is being accomplished. And likewise, when you find justification for being thoughtful, caring, loving, inclusive, you don't realize that you are making a gift, not only to the ones that you are specifically extending it to, you are making a gift to the whole brotherhood. And something real is happening. Something universal is happening. Something holy is happening. And you can understand it when I say that something wholizing is happening. But it's happening, the wholizing is not just happening in your one-on-one relationship where you've been willing to extend love and to embrace. It is a gift that is universal because of what you divinely are. And you are engaging in creation in that sense. And you need to know that there are times that most of the time you are engaged in doing nothing. And some of the time you are engaged in doing something incredible, something far more infinite than you think. And you need to be told that so that you might be inspired to withdraw your commitment to hate and defense and frustration and the willingness to feel bitter about your brothers and sisters, and replace that with a willingness, no matter how idiotic it seems to you to be because of what you have always believed, to extend love, to be inclusive, to remember that you are holy, to remember that the ultimate of what you are at this instant. and that the only thing that blocks you from the experience of it is a misperception, which is mental. And miracles can occur. Sudden shifts of perception can occur. You're either experiencing the singularity of being clearly, or you're experiencing the singularity of being in a fragmented way. But there's only one thing to experience, and there's also only one thing to experience it. And it's you experiencing it clearly, or you experiencing it unclearly. Again, I'm trying to illuminate the meaning of the word singularity, because the more clearly you can get it, the less complicated you will think it will be to wake up. And the less you will think you have to grow equal to something that's far greater than you are, that will constitute an almost insurmountable thing to overcome. It's not true. This section has been called the extension of the kingdom. The extension of the kingdom is the movement that occurs without any control being used as a result of the conscious experience of the fundamental premise, I am. The fundamental conscious experience of I am. God, the great I am, does not say, I am a butterfly, and suddenly a butterfly appears. And God does not say, I am a locomotive engine, and a locomotive engine appears. Mind bees what it is, awareness. And awareness is the experience of I am. And that awareness is a movement. And that movement is experienceable. And God looks at the movement. You might say after the fact of the movement, and says, wow, that's me. He lets what he's being tell him what he is, while the ego takes what is recognizable and says, that's not me, but I'll tell you what it is. And these last few words that I've just said are the simplest way in which to define the meaning of the word being, existence. And I'm going to leave you with that for today. Except, I need to say one more thing. Oh yes, you will get it.